Hey, good morning, everybody. We're looking at another drawing in Module 2, Drawing 2.9, the Special Cam. The assignment I have up right now, so you can see that we're going to be working on, in particular, the Polygon and the Ellipse command. This is the first introduction of the Ellipse command, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a rundown of how that command works before we get started with the drawing. Polygon we looked at in the last assignment, so this is just a little bit of a review of that. In addition, with this drawing, it's an inch drawing, so we want to start that with the MVCC mechanical inch template. I want you to create center lines on the center layer. There's no other line types on here, so it's only visible and center lines. So in terms of layer usage, that's all that you need to worry about. We are not dimensioning this, right? Remember, dimensioning is all going to be done in Module 3. And then we want to prepare this for printing on an A-size portrait layout, okay, which I don't think we've used yet. So not that there's much difference, but it looks a little bit different, so we'll go through that as well. Okay, so so that's a rundown of the assignment. This is the drawing that we're going to be working on. Okay, this is the special cam. So you can see it has an elliptical outline here, and this is where the polygon is. Other than that, it's there's a lot of construction that we've already seen in this, a lot of circle, tan, radius, and stuff. So from a construction point of view, I don't think it will take that much time, or it shouldn't take that much time for you. But let's go ahead and get started. So let me push that to the side, and we'll bring up AutoCAD. And we want to start with the inch template. Okay, so before we jump right in, let's have a look at the ellipse command. Okay, so the ellipse command is up here just under the rectangle command in the draw panel. And you can see there's a couple of different options for the ellipse. We can use the center option, or we can use the axis end option. Okay, so let's look at each one of these. We'll do the center option first. So with the center option, obviously it asks us to specify the center of the ellipse. Okay, so we can pick a point right there, and then it's going to ask us to specify one of the endpoints of the axis. Okay, now let me draw this first, and then we'll look at what we created and what it's asking for, because it's a little bit better to look at the ellipse and then to figure out what it asked for. So I'll pick a point out here. Let me just type in 2, right, and then I'll hit enter. And then I'm going to stretch it up here, and I'll type in 3 and hit enter as well. Okay. Okay. So, so what's interesting of note is that the center of this, what we specified, gives us the distance from to one axis endpoint, and then to the other axis endpoint. Okay, so what AutoCAD was asking for was really the radius from the center to the, in this case, what we have is, this is the minor axis, right? This is the minor axis because the minor axis is the smaller of the two axes. And this is the major axis. So when AutoCAD, in the center axis endpoint option, when AutoCAD asks for an axis endpoint, it's asking for the distance from the center to the end of the axis. So that essentially is, in this case, this would be the minor axis radius, or half distance, and this would be the major axis radius, or half distance. Okay, so let's do that again. We go to center axis endpoint, we choose our center, and then we can stretch it out here. I'll do 1.5, and then I'll go up and do 2.5. Okay, and then we do that. Now we can affect a turn, a rotated ellipse, by drawing at an angle. I have my polar tracking on at 45 degrees, so I can stretch it out like this. So notice also that the first axis endpoint is not necessarily the major or the minor one. You get to decide what it is. So if I want this to be the if I want this to be the minor axis, then I stretch it like this. If I want it to be the first axis to be the major axis, then I have to stretch it like this. Notice also, this is also good to know, that when I'm specifying my distance, see right here it says specify the distance, okay? That distance is just a number, right? So it's always going to be perpendicular to my first axis. So because I drew my first axis endpoint at an angle of 45 degrees, my second one is going to be perpendicular to that, and I'm stretching just for the distance. You can see that. It's not directional, right? I don't have to stretch it along this axis. I can stretch it anyway, right? Like that, okay? All right, so that's the axis endpoint option. Let's look at the other one. Let's go over, just kind of push these to the side. And we'll use the axis endpoint here. Now on this one, you're not specifying the center of the ellipse to start with. You're specifying one axis endpoint and then the opposite of that axis. And then you stretch the half distance for the other axis. Okay, so again, slightly different. In this case, you're specifying the whole or total axis distance and then half the other axis distance. Okay, so play around with that. Please, before you jump into the special cam problem or project, you should, just test these out. All you got to do is draw it and just pay attention. Like I said earlier, just pay attention to what AutoCAD is showing you in front of your face on the screen. Please remember that the CAD Learning website has examples that I've linked to for this command. So if you want to go deeper into it, then you can do that. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with the drawing. So the first thing I'm going to do, yeah, you guessed it, I'm going to draw a construction line just because that helps to, it helps to give me a center. Right? I like working with a center where I know things are going to be. And now I have to decide whether I'm going to use the axis endpoint or the center ellipse. Okay, and let's take a look at the drawing just to kind of figure out how we can do that. So here's one axis, okay, and this axis distance is 4.25. And that's a total distance. The other axis from here to here is a total distance of 6.5. So, how can I do that? Well, I could do, I could actually do either one, to be honest with you. Since I've already identified the center, I'm going to use the center option. So I'll choose center. Oops, center, there we go. But I have to be careful because this first distance that I'm going to do, whether I do the vertical or the horizontal distance, the first distance has got to be half of the length that's given in the drawing. So in this case, I'm not going to type in 4.25 because my ellipse will be with the wrong dimensions. So I need to type in half of 4.25. Now, so you could type in 2.125, right? Or remember, if you don't want to do the math, which is fine, apostrophe cal, enter, 4.25 divided by 2, enter. There we go. Okay. So now, and then I stretch out the other one, and I can type in apostrophe cal, enter, 6.5 divided by 2. And yeah, don't send me any emails about my poor math ability. I can do the math, but I wanted to show you the command. And also remember my admonition that doing math in your head is risky. I don't care how easy the math is. It's risky, and in a professional environment when you're doing drawings that are going to be end up with parts being produced or houses being built or whatever, you don't want to mess that up. So this is just a safety thing. Okay. All right, so I got my ellipse in there. Now we just got to lay out everything, and you know, offset is just the way to go. So we find our let's offset. Actually, I'm going to do this. I'm going to use the copy command. I don't use the copy command often, but I feel like this would be a good place to kind of give you an example of how we can use it. So I'm going to copy this line, and I'm going to copy it from the midpoint up here to the intersection right there. So you see how I use object snap to do that? Okay. And then I can offset 0.75. I can offset that line down, and I can offset 1.5 and offset that line down, and I think we are good to go there. Okay. So now let's start working on this. So the inside of this can be a little bit confusing, right? Just use the dimensions, right? So let's start with, and especially the middle section here. So let's start by putting in the easy stuff. We'll take the low-hanging fruit first, which is this hole and this detail right there. So let's go to circle center diameter, and we'll put a circle right there with a diameter of 0.625. And then we'll do another center diameter here of 2.76. Okay. We'll leave the polygon for later, but let's work on this part. Okay, so let's first draw the circular features. I'm using the term circular features, you know, because we're going to trim them. Circular features with a known center, because we can get those in. So I'm going to go to center radius, and I'm going to put a circle in here with a radius of 0.75. Okay, right there. And then, now this is a little bit confusing for everybody. I don't know why, but over the years it is. This arc right here and this arc right here are drawn where the center is clearly right there and the radius is 3.62. Okay. Now I'm not going to use the arc command because you know what I think about the arc command. So I'm going to draw a circle with a center radius. I'm going to put the center right there where the dimension shows that, and I'm going to stretch it out to 3.62. Okay. And I'm going to repeat that. So enter, put that right there, and 3.62. I've said this before, but remember that in this class, you have the answer key in front of you. You literally, I give you the answer. You just have to replicate it. So if at any point your drawing starts to deviate from what this looks like, guess what? You're wrong. So fix that, right? Don't turn in a drawing that looks different than this. You know, unless of course you can't figure it out. How to get some geometry in there, and then I hope before you turn it in you would email me or contact me so that I can help you with that. But remember, this is the answer key. You have the answer in front of you. Okay. All right. So we got that. Now where do we go from here? Because it looks like such a mess. Well, the rest of it is created with circle tan radius. Okay. So just watch. We go to circle tan radius, and I'm going to put a tangent right there and a tangent there, and it's a radius of 0.5. And we go back to circle TTR, tangent 0.5, and we go back to circle TTR, and now this is a tangent 0.25, and back to TTR, tangent 0.25. All right, now that might not look like I'm done, but I am. Let's go to trim, and let's pick our cutting edges wisely here. So I'm basically going to pick all of these objects. I don't think I need that, but I do need that. All right, so let's get rid of this. Whoops, I missed a line. and that's good. We'll get rid of that. We'll get rid of that, and then we'll go back to trim because I forgot something, and we'll trim that away. And yeah, and we can trim this away. Let's go to trim. We'll pick there, and trim that. All right. Good. So far, so good. All right, so let's erase some. I think we can get rid of some of these construction lines. Right, some of them will be replaced with center lines, and now we can just finish up with the polygon. So the polygon is, you're given a dimension width across the flats, right? Flats, width across the flats is 1.5. So which polygon option do we use? Inscribed or circumscribed? We use circumscribed. I think I heard somebody say that correctly. Okay, so let's go to circumscribed. Polygon, and we want 6 sides. This is a hexagon. Center of the polygon, well, let's use object snap. So notice I'm going to come over here and I'm not clicking, just come over here so that it knows that I'm looking at the circle, and then I can move across here and click, and I want to use the circumscribed option, and I want to orient myself properly. And remember I said this, it's asking you for a half distance from the center to one of the flats. The dimension you're given in the drawing is a total distance. So what I need to put in here is half of 1.5, which is 0.75. All right. Now, it flipped on me. Okay. Yeah, it does that periodically. So it's no biggie. Just use the rotate command. Rotate this. From the center is your base point, and then we just rotate it. And you can just rotate it like this, 90 degrees. All right. And we are done with the geometry. All right. So let's finish this up. Let's go and apply our center lines. So I'm going to change my layer to the center line layer. Now, you might be thinking, yeah, I don't think that's necessary, because doesn't the center mark automatically place itself on the center line layer? Yes, it does in this template. In the metric template, it doesn't, but it's just good practice. You know, some of the things I do just because they're good practice, and I want you to replicate those techniques. All right, so let's put a center mark here, and let's put a center mark here, and let's join these two. Okay, so we can grab, which one do we want to grab? Let's grab this one right here. And I'm going to grab the arrow end, and I'm going to stretch it down to right there. And then I'm going to hit escape. And there we go. There's our center mark. Okay. Do we need a center mark in the middle of the object? Yeah, we do. But watch. Center mark. So I pick the ellipse, and nothing happens. Right? Well, why? Well, read what AutoCAD's asking. It says select circle or arc to add center mark. An ellipse is neither a circle nor an arc. So how are we going to get that center mark in there? We're going to draw a line on the center layer. Are we going to draw a center line? No. That's a special construction, just like center mark. We are going to draw a line on the center layer. So I'm going to go back to home. I'm going to go to the line command, and I'm going to pick the center of this. I want to make sure I get the right thing, and I'm going to stretch it out like this. And I'm going to go, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go out to the end right here, and I'll show you why in a second. Okay. And then I don't want to draw a second line. Okay, so don't do this. Don't draw another line out here. Why not? Well, because that's going to be 2 lines, and we want a continuous line. So what does that mean? We need to extend. So we go to extend, and we pick the edge of the ellipse here, and then we extend it like that. All right, so that's what I want you to do. Now, remember that it needs to extend, according to our CAD standards, it needs to extend 0.09 inches or 2 millimeters. So how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to use grips. So watch this. Click on that. I get a grip box. I'm going to grab the grip box, left click, click, and stretch it out, and I'm going to type in 0.09 right there. Beautiful. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Click on that, grab it, stretch it out, 0.09, enter, and there we go. We're done. Okay. Well, not quite. We got the vertical line. See, I tricked you. Right. So when we have the horizontal, we want to get the vertical one, and this doesn't go through that. Now, this is a little bit different because we're using the center mark. Okay. So watch. We click on the center mark, and notice we got two. We got a center grip, and then we got a I forget what that's called. It's a special grip, an extension grip or something like that. But notice the distance is already set to 0.09. So watch how easy this is. We grab the square grip and stretch it out to here, and it keeps that distance. All right. So isn't that nice? So we click on this, we grab that, and we stretch it out to right there. All right. Now we are done. No tricks. We are done with that. All right, so that's good. Now we want to, let's save it, and then let's go and prepare it for printing. So I'll call it, whoops, let's call it all caps. There we go. Okay, so we want ANSI A portrait, so we click on that layout. There it is right there. Ignore this long line right here. This is hidden from view. This don't worry about that. All right, that's just a code that we put in there. So there's our space. We don't have a lot of space, so we're probably going to have to scale it down. So we do just like before, okay? So it's no different than what we had with the ANSI B. So we double click inside, do a Z space E space for zoom extents, bring it in there, and then we set the scale. Now look at that. It's almost 1:1. Almost 1:1. Which means that the next lowest one is half scale. All right, so there we go. All right, so there's our half scale. We double click outside, close that, and then we want to fill in this information. So we go to drawing utilities and drawing properties, and then we put all this stuff in here, drawn by C. Bales, instructor C. Bales, course MDT 145 section 300, drawing title, special cam, drawing number 2.9, revision number 0, sheet number 1, material not applicable, check by C. Bales. Okay. Remember to get it all in there, type regen, RE, enter, and there we go. All right. Looks all beautiful, everything checks out, and we're ready to prepare it for printing. Okay. So we go to print, we ignore that warning, and we choose our high quality print. Everything's good. Layout, we preview it. Everything looks good still, and then we plot it. Okay. So by this point, you know, I hope that you are starting to kind of understand and get a little bit more comfortable with drawing with AutoCAD. You know, there is at this point in your practice, there needs to be a fair amount of repetition just so that you can start to, you know, understand a better workflow or a efficient and effective workflow. And we'll continue to pepper in new commands and new construction as we go along, building and building and building until at the end of the class, you know, the goal is at the end of the class that you can make these drawings that we are using in class, both from an engineering drawing and an architectural drawing. We'll talk about architectural drawings later. That is your final project, is to do an architectural drawing, and I may have some practice drawings that I'll give you for that. But right now we just got to keep plugging away. I'll save that. There we go. All right. So I'll see you in the next video.